All right, celebrations. We have Tiger Trades Academy graphic art students, and they are going to give us the update. All right, celebrations. We have Tiger Trades Academy graphic art students, and they are going to give us the
All right, so thanks for the opportunity. It's Board Recognition Month. And every year, each school takes a turn, and you're always lucky when it's Tiger Trades Academy because we always try to find something pretty cool. I think we did this time. We're celebrating our graphic arts program, which just started basically this year. And I'll let Mrs. Hale and Mrs. K talk about that a little bit. And I'm going to give you your presents. Go ahead, Mrs. Hale.
This certainly has been a learning experience for me and the kids. I knew nothing about this, and we have had, we worked on our computers the first month or so, and then it got closer to December, and I decided I wanted to do something with the kids. And so we ordered some cups, and we put like a snowman, or here, you tell.
We put Christmas designs on coffee cups, and we sold them at the craft store.
And somebody, one of our group, put it on Facebook. Oh my gosh, we had phone calls and phone calls and phone calls trying to order these cups. And we made money. We actually made some money. And so we bought more cups. And that's how this got started. But in trying to get cups at some time or another, we had to go to Hobby Lobby because we couldn't get them fast enough anyplace else. And the little gal that went, Miss Leone, found other things that you could do with sublimation. And so we did earrings,
Ornaments.
ornaments.
We did shirts. We did koozies. We did little coasters.
Can you hear her?
Yes. We did tumblers, and that's about it.
She's our go-to girl. She did a really, really good job.
So the idea, of course, with graphic arts is we're trying to find employable skills that kids are interested in, and there's as much to do with this. There's as much excitement about graphic arts as there is for like our construction trades. It's really been a successful program. Did you want to introduce the group? Well, you guys introduce yourselves.
Yeah, introduce yourself.
I'm Kaylee Hernandez. I'm in 11th grade. Yeah, my name's Juan Elias, and I'm in 11th grade.
Well, Sarah is back there being shy. Sarah Hernandez. Okay. I'll come back and I'll give you guys an update on how Tiger Trades is doing when you don't have a million things on your agenda. Because we're doing a lot of great things over there. It's not just graphic arts. And I do want to give you guys an update, but you guys have got a full one tonight. So enjoy that, I guess. I do want to thank the high school, and Mrs. Spragmore, because after all those coffee cups, our printer
Died.
Our printer was no more, and so there at the last minute, Mrs. Spragmore printed it up there for us, kind of saved us. So I did appreciate that. We're going to get a new printer, probably something more nice. All right. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you All right, item D, board recognition.
So I'd like to take a moment and honor Board Recognition Month, say thank you guys. This is a very difficult job, it's a thankless job that is paying you nothing. But we need you and this community needs you to really guard and guide our school district. So I thank you for all the hard work that we've done and all the hard work we're getting ready to do. And just want to say that from all the district, we really appreciate each and every one of you for all you do for our school and most importantly, for our kids.
All right. Letter E, audience portion. Do we have anyone sign up for this one?
We do not.
All right. Letter F, approval of the agenda.
So I recommend approval of the consent agenda as presented. Consent agenda below, there, if you want me to read it aloud, I can.
I can entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Questions, comments?
I just I really like on the district advisory council. As one of the focuses, communicate success stories with our community, the successes of the district. I really like that. We need to do more of that.
All right, roll call.
Mrs. Ayala.
Aye.
Mrs. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Salzburger.
Aye.
Joe, is that for the approval of the agenda?
That was the approval of the agenda.
Okay, okay. Number two, consent agenda.
Okay, sorry. I read the wrong one. That's on me. So this time I recommend approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second, I have a motion and a second. Questions, comments?
I still stand by it.
Yeah, I like the DAC. All right, roll call.
Mrs. Ayala.
Aye.
Mrs. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Salzburger.
Aye.
All right, number three, financial report.
Okay, we're with us today from Abacus is Kim Griego. And Sarah is going to be on her.
She's not gonna be able to get on until about 7, so. Are we gonna be able to present the report by chance? Or no? 1 second. If you can only open one of them, the one we want is the cash flow. Yeah.
I don't know if that's legible. If we go in one more, it like cuts off right
That's
side.
fine.
Is that okay?
That just kind of gives a good example at this point.
Okay.
I have provided Jill with all of the December financials. And in the December financials, you'll have an income statement summary, an income statement detail. You're gonna have this cash flow report. You'll have your financial committee or your financial for the compliance checklist, making sure that we just completed the W-2s, the 1099s, so you see where we're at with all of those. But just to take a moment of time today, well, all of those are basically summed up on this one report for you. We've introduced it to you the last couple of months. And I know you really like it, Mr. Coleman, sorry, apologize. So with that, looking at our adopted budget, or I apologize. So looking at the first column, you have your adopted budget from 625, and that shows us that we were expecting a surplus of $121,000. All funds year-to-date activity as of December 31st. This includes all revenues and expenses as of December 31st, and we are coming in at a negative $2,700,000 right now, currently. Some of that is because of our income or our property taxes. Until the audit is complete, we will not receive those property taxes. And we'll talk about that a little bit with our budget that's coming up as well. So once the audit is complete, then we will get some of the property taxes in. So right now, we're probably missing about a little over $1 million just from property taxes that we haven't been able to receive yet this year. So looking at percent of budget, we should be roughly at 50% of the school year as of December 31st. But when you look at the percent of budget, you'll see that it's overall, it's right around 50%, but we wanted to refine it more with updating the budget. So looking at these December, I know this is very summarized with your total revenues of 7.5 million. And your total salaries as of December 31st are the 5.2 million. So we're coming in pretty darn close, but again, we want to refine it with the budget, which will be on the next, it'll be coming here in a couple sections, correct? Are you able to open up the income statement summary by chance? This is where if you have that open, you can see the detail on our revenues. Are we earning from interest? Where are we at with our state funding on revenues and our federal funding? So you can see those details listed there on where are we at receiving funds at that point. As well as down below, you can see your expenses and where are we coming in at currently. So again, this is summarized, and you also have a detail if you want us to drill it down even more to see specific accounts. So I'll just kind of stop there and see if you guys have any questions at this point.
So if we had our property tax money, we would still be in the negative 1.7 million.
Correct.
So the money that we don't have, property tax we don't have, is 23-24 money. Is that correct?
23-24, correct, because that audit is not completed. We received a certain amount of the 23-24 taxes, but not the full amount. As well as we have not received any taxes for this current fiscal year as well.
So I guess so I'm having a hard time getting my head around. We're operating under this budget, but we don't have money from the last budget. So
Correct.
how does that? I guess how does that work on the books? Because the money that we don't have, we've already spent it.
Basically, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we're counting on that money for this budget.
Correct. So, and that's where we're guaranteed those property taxes based off of the mills and everything that we complete and we get certified. So we are promised those taxes, and actually we are going to be working with the state auditor's office. And I believe we have a meeting later this week, possibly, to talk about what can we do on, it's called a 0% loan that's offered through the state. So we are going to be getting in contact with them, and basically it's borrowing money off of those property taxes that are already promised to us. So this way it can get us out of this cash crunch that we're at.
Kim, so basically to answer your question, Greg, last year we came in with a deficit. We've done it for several years. So without those property taxes, we basically took money out of our savings And that's so now we've cleared our savings, we're not able to do that. We're relying so heavily on getting a property tax. If we don't, then we're going to have to look at that 0% law. Is that correct? And with us, we have Glenn Gustafson from CDE. He is with us. He's been working with us from at the state level, working on our budget. He's been with advocates, and Glenn, they've been a tremendous help figuring out how we're going to dig out of this serious issue that we have. So thanks for being here, Glenn.
Sure, if I could answer that question, I think, I'd like to add a little more clarification. So first of all, as Patrick mentioned, my name's Glenn Gustafson. I am a part-time school finance manager with the Colorado Department of Education. And what I do is I go all over the state helping districts that are having struggles with anything financial. It could be audit, budget, investments, bonds, you name it. I was the CFO for Colorado Springs District 11 for over 30 years. And I'm a CPA, and I have all extensive background in governmental and school finance accounting. So the way it works is your 23-24 audit, which your fiscal year ended June 30, 24, was due December 31 of 24. When that was not submitted on time and still hasn't been submitted, the state auditor notifies the county treasurer in March to turn off your property taxes. So your property taxes have only been turned off since after the March 10th payment. They wait till after March 10 because that's a big payment. So they like to wait at least till then, but then they turn off your property taxes. So they've been off since March 11th, so to speak, of 25. Okay, so about 9 months or so. And of course, now the big challenge is you collect 90% of your property taxes between February and June, and you're about to go into the big property tax collection period, and you're not going to get those revenues until that audit is submitted. And so now you're late on your 24-25 audit, and you're late on your 23-24 audit. Now Kim has, and by the way, I know Kim well. We work together. I like Abacus. They're one of our best partners in terms of helping districts out that are having financial struggles. And she's the best at Abacus. You're really fortunate to have her. But she's been accruing those property taxes, but the cash hasn't been received. So we're recognizing revenue, but we don't have the cash. And so that's what's creating these cash flow challenges that she's sharing with you. So I thought that might help answer your question a little bit better. And when we get to the budget, I think Patrick wanted me to share a few things, so I'll sit back.
So then when the 23-24 is submitted, we'll get the property taxes from that March 11th to the end of the year. Well, through the end of the next year. Correct. But then since 24-25 is not submitted, they'll then shut that off again, March 11th. Okay.
So, yes, question is, what's the status of the audit?
I received an email myself again. I had a meeting with them last week. They said that we need to step up on making sure everything has been. Patrick and I had conversations this week, and we actually were able to turn almost everything over to them. As of yesterday, she was able to get them, or as of this morning, she was able to get them more information that they were looking at. We're just now, with the help of Jared, he is helping us get grant stuff. And again, we're going back a couple of years, so they're trying to find grant information from 22-23 to make sure everything is balanced. And so they can continue on. So I am responding I even received an email on Saturday at 2 p.m. I responded by 5 p.m. with everything that they'd asked. So I am turning around.
It seems like every time we have a meeting, they're wanting additional stuff.
Correct.
Is that? It seemed to me when you do an audit, you say, okay, we need X, Y, and Z, and then we would turn that over. We obviously didn't do that, and it seemed why do they keep asking for more? When are we gonna give them everything they need, I guess, is my question, because it seems like we've been giving them stuff for a year.
Here's our CPA here, Mr. Auditor.
I was an auditor for 5 years, before my school district experience. So they drive you crazy. They ask for more and more information. This is normal. What is making it extra challenging is it's old. We're working 2 years in arrears. And it's a new auditor, right?
A new auditor on top of new personnel.
Yeah. And
So,
And so all of those factor, and I will tell you, we have a statewide shortage of auditors. I have districts that can't find an auditor right now and don't know what to do because it's a statutory requirement. There's 20% fewer CPAs now than there was when I started in the profession. And a lot of them have gotten out of government auditor because it's not that profitable. But the short answer to your question is it's because they're new, you're way behind, and a little bit of that is normal. Also, when they find irregularities, they dig deeper. And you guys are full of irregularities. So they're digging deeper because in the end, they're going to give you an opinion on whether or not the financial statements are accurate and presented fairly. That's their job, not to find fraud. Is your balance sheet and your income statement presented accurately and fairly? That's the opinion they render. And in order for them to put their name on the line for that, because that's a really important and liable position they have to be sure that those numbers are right. So that's part of the delays that you're seeing.
and I did speak with Dimitri, like I mentioned last week, he's your auditor. And he said he'd be happy to join a work session, a board session to fill you in directly. I had mentioned that we were talking financials and budget, that, that the agenda was set, that we will gladly, invite him, Patrick will reach out to him if you would like him to join.
Part of it too, he has to recertify the prior audit.
Correct.
Has that piece been completed or they're still working?
They're still working on trying to recertify, and that's where we had asked Jared to step in because the grants, and he's been working directly with the grant team at Abacus, and they can get online and look at all the information. If they need to make sure all of that is accurate.
Those are the federal grants?
Federal and
COVID
state
money.
grants.
COVID money,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And they're certifying just like 22, 23 or further back?
No, they're just starting at 22, 23 at this point. Correct.
So we did get all of the information for the COVID money so far that they wanted?
Everything that I've given them, they'll come back and ask for more, like Glenn said, that they dig more. And they're like, oh, if they go down this path, and they're like, oh, I want to see that path now.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of, finding all of the information. Not all of it's digital, so Jared and Shay have been going through boxes as well. So that's been fun.
Did they give an estimation on when
I
part at all?
I don't have one, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Like I said, we'll have Dimitri, I don't want to speak for them, but I'm trying to turn around everything as quickly as I can. So this way they have it in their hands.
And I do think he understands your cash flow situation.
Yes, yeah.
So he's making you a priority.
On a brighter note though, as soon as we get this one submitted, we have pretty much everything in line. The
Yes.
next one should go smooth and be submitted fairly quickly.
Mhm.
And then for the next year, we're already in line with the auditor for time slot.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We have to wait for the other two audits to be completed before they'll put us on the schedule.
Okay.
So as it pertains to the don't get these dates mixed up,
Mhm.
to the 24-25 audit,
Correct.
did we apply for an extension?
State won't give you an extension if you're late on your first year.
So what does that mean?
So it was due December 31st.
We'll get penalized.
In the end, the extension doesn't really matter and it's not CDE, it's the state auditor's office. They're gonna notify, the March 9th deadline doesn't change whether or not you have an extension. So there's really no penalty for not getting an extension. But, obviously you have cash flow challenges. We got to get 23, 24 because you're going to get a lump sum from the county treasurer. As soon as the 23, 24 is submitted to CDE, CDE will notify that day the state auditor's office, and probably within one day, they will notify the county treasurer. I don't know how long it'll take your county treasurer to get that money to you, but it should only be a matter of days.
It was days, correct?
Yeah, and so probably within a week of submission, you're gonna get a lump sum of property taxes all the way up to March 9th of 26. And then if the 24-25 audit is not done by March 9th of 26, they're gonna turn them off again.
So the real challenge is getting caught up. Once we get caught up, then we'll be able to get back on track.
Did I jump in?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to overstep my boundaries.
Absolutely.
After 30 years of school board meetings, I know the business well. So as I mentioned, I travel all over the state helping districts that are struggling. Your district isn't in the worst position, but you're in the bottom three. We still have a handful of districts that have not completed 23, 24. We're seeing this challenge all over the state of Colorado where we've had, especially since COVID, we've had a turnover of school business managers and superintendents. And when you start turning them over repeatedly, you lose all that corporate memory in terms of policies, procedures, and practices. Because of the struggle of finding high quality finance directors in rural Colorado, we now recommend that you partner with an outsourced partner like Abacus that can either do back office. You don't need back office. Shay can do payroll and cut checks. That's what I mean by back office, pay the bills and make payroll. You need help with the higher level of getting a budget done, an audit done, all the more challenging CFO type activities that quite honestly are not in Shay's job description. They're beyond Shay's experience. And so your situation is not alone. And it's been this challenge of turnover and just changing people and policies and procedures that has got you so far behind. But as you know, it's imperative we get good financial data because you're now in a position where your deficit spending, we'll get to that when we get to the budget, and you're running out of cash. And what that means is sooner or later, if you don't have enough money, you're going to miss payroll. And when you miss payroll, that's fatal. And just so you know, the consequence when that happens is then the state treasurer will take over your financial operations for your school district. They'll take the whole thing. They'll pay bills. They'll make whatever adjustments they need to make to staffing. They'll cut people. They'll lay off people. And you'll be in the front page of the paper every single day. It's happened twice in my 30 years in Colorado, once in Elizabeth, Colorado, and once in St. Vrain, Colorado. And it was bad. I mean, the press was horrible. It took St. Vrain a decade to recover from that. So I'm really excited. I spent time personally helping Patrick convert you to a budget template that will help you to properly budget your funds in a way that the board will understand with graphs and charts. We've had great reviews from this template that we've developed that is understandable to the layperson. And Kim has taken that template. I roughed it all out for her, but I don't know your staffing and all that stuff. So I had to turn it back over to Shay and Kim. And they have taken that template and enhanced it even further. So I think you're on the right track. You still have a budget challenge, which we're going to get to that on a different agenda item, but you have the right people in place to get it fixed, get the audit done, and turn on your property taxes. That's your number one priority, because without those property taxes, you are in jeopardy of missing payroll. And there's nothing worse than missing payroll. You're going to have 500 employees on your doorstep going, I didn't get paid this week. What happened? I have a mortgage due. What am I supposed to do? So that's the situation that we're in. But I feel like with Patrick, with Abacus, working together with Shay, and with Dimitri, you now have the pieces of the puzzle in place to kind of get this fixed. And quite honestly, once we get it all caught up and fixed, then we need to talk about a long-term plan of how we do this so that you're no longer in this position that you're current, you're caught up, and you're practicing good financial responsibility as a school board. Did that help a little bit to understand that background?
Thank you.
Thank you.
More questions for Kim?
Did you have more to present?
No,
Okay.
the budget
You said it was
will,
a pause,
yeah.
then so it's like the third
Yeah.
one?
That was just the one report that I really wanted to focus on because we'll be talking about the budgets as well.
Okay. Any other questions?
I've got one, could you explain, I remember we moved some money, from some local accounts into the Colorado Trust for better interest. Could you just explain the Colorado Trust and how that works?
If you guys could bring up the cash account breakdown, please. So with the cash account breakdown, if you look, the very top one, the savings account, it's highlighted in red. That one has been, basically, we've taken the savings out. The next one down is your CD investment account. So that's a 15-month CD that you have the $1 million. Your Colorado Trust, and we're only earning 2.32%.
Why do we need that?
Well, next month, we might have to borrow from it again.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm
So,
thinking, yeah.
exactly. What happened was in December to make payroll, we had to close the second CD. So you'll see in my notes, we had to close that to cover December payroll. We moved it, Jared went to the bank, we moved it into our checking account. Once payroll was completed, then we were able to move, I believe it was 2 million back into Colorado Trust just for a couple of weeks to earn now 3.9356% interest. So I'm trying to keep as much money in Colorado Trust to earn more of that interest. And so I'm watching it on a daily basis. Payroll taxes were paid today. So tomorrow I'm gonna get in there and look, update this cash account breakdown. Patrick is seeing this on a weekly basis, if not bi-weekly, because we meet twice a week. And I update this for him and any given moment.
And just so you know, we highly recommend Call Trust. It is like a money market account. It's only for Colorado governments, cities, counties, school districts, and the state. And it's like a money market account, has a very short-term maturity. It has the greatest combination of safety. They invest 100% in US Treasuries, agencies, and high-grade commercial paper. Liquidity, you can get the money the next day easily. You can even get it the same day if you call early enough. And yield, 3.9% right now is better than anybody can do. So that's why we highly recommend Call Trust as a tool. You don't need to be in CDs right now. You need cash. So as soon as we can get more money into Call Trust, which is actually earning more than your CDs, the better.
Kim, do you want to talk about how we had to move money to make payroll and then moved it back?
Yeah, and that's basically what happened in December or in January.
Yes.
With January, our state funding that comes in, it comes in between the 23rd and the 25th of the month. Payroll is the 26th. When the 26th happens on a Sunday or a Saturday, we have to now pay on Friday. If we don't have state funding in, and now Patrick gets my hyperventilation calls, and I'm like, I need to move money. I'm sorry, I can't push payroll through until I know money's in the bank. So we have them. Is that what you're wanting?
Yeah. So we gave ourselves a short-term loan. The problem is we're running out of
Places to take money
places to
from.
take our money.
That CD's the next target, right?
That will probably happen in January, just to be honest.
Can you bring up the last 5 years?
Well, that's our budget report.
Okay, so we can wait.
So when we get to budget, I know we have, the CDE budget report, but because audits are not completed, What we did was we're giving you a 5-year span on your financial report in the summary format, as well as a detail. Because we don't have final audit numbers to put in that budget summary report. So we've given you this report, and I can give you the budget summary as well. That has all nice pretty graphs and everything, but we were kind of waiting until the audit numbers were making sure they're solid and set in stone.
So how do we feel about that operating cash number? Is that high, low, medium?
Right now, what I try to do is keep in just as much as we owe for Tabor, which is right around 500,000. So I've asked Shay to always watch, we do not drop below that Tabor amount. If we know we're gonna drop below, but we know state funding's coming in a day, okay, that's okay, you know, but our cash, it's getting tight. I'm glad that we're gonna be meeting with the state about the 0% loan, because I feel probably in about 3 months we'll need it if we don't have our taxes by then.
And then, I listened very technically at your presentation at CASB, about fund balance.
Thank you.
So where are we? I mean, you said a lot of things about fund balance. How is our fund balance given our situation?
Right now, general fund, and this would be on your balance sheet. Unassigned fund balance, we're at 1.8 million.
And where do you think they'll be at June 30? Do you know?
Not good.
Yeah, my guess is you're gonna be close to only having your Tabor reserve on June 30th.
And that table reserve has got to be 500,000, right? So we're going to tap into the fund balance.
Yes, because your deficit spending.
Right.
Okay.
And then hopefully at some point, when we get our acts together, we'll have to get back and replenish that fund balance.
And we're gonna talk about that with the budget.
Okay.
Any other questions on the financial report? Jill, is this an action item?
It is.
I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Any additional questions, comments? Roll call?
Mrs. Ayala. Aye. Mrs. Hines. Aye. Mr. Colovitz.
Aye.
Mr. Salzburger.
Aye.
All right, item 4, minutes.
Make a motion to approve the December 8th, 2025 minutes.
Sorry.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the December 8th, 2025 regular meeting. Questions, comments? Roll call?
Mrs. Ayala. Aye. Mrs. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Colovitz.
Aye.
Mr. Salzburger.
Aye.
5, presentation.
All right, we have Jared will be presenting our updates of where we are mid-year based on some test data that we have back. So I'll turn it over to Jared.
Forward the access computer, guys.
Thanks, folks. Thank you guys for your time. Please, at any time, if I need to stop, hesitation, give more details, please just let me know. I gave you two documents. First one is just a printout of our slideshow. Second one is a breakdown of our Lahana Vision of Instruction tool as all references we're going through. This is going to be a mid-year data step back for our primary and intermediate schools, and then you will have a step back at the next board meeting with our secondary schools broke down on that. Starting off, just to make sure everyone on the table, remembers UVA, University of Virginia at Arlington, kind of our whole district-wide support. And then we have TNTP, which is the new teacher project, which is really focused in on our intermediate and primary schools. So breaking down, so we have our priorities, our big rocks identified with both UVA and TNTP. I've got listed the 24-25 priorities and really how they shifted to 25 and 26. Again, with the high emphasis on Big Rock 1 being planning and implementation of high quality instructional materials, and our Big Rock 2 being the strengthening the quality and consistency of instruction. As you step to this next section, you will see the arc of the year. This is our Lahana Vision of Instruction tool that we started to craft with CDE early last year and really started to put into practice last year, and then has been broken down further this year with the help of TNTP. So essentially what we did is we call them sprint cycles. UVA terms was 90-day plans. You essentially section off each quarter of the grid or each quarter of the school year and set clear goals, clear expectations of what you want to run data on, what you want to coach your staff on, and check progress towards meeting those goals. So you will see in the in this document where we've broken down quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. Each of those really highlights again how we took those goals from Lahana Vision of Instruction and put it into everyday practices. Essentially what these documents turn into is Google Forms that our principals, our instructional coaches, myself, TNTP, we go through, go classroom to classroom, do observations, pull teachers, give feedback, give coaching, and then go back in and complete that same coaching cycle. And so again, that's just a magnified document with that information on it. Within this, we kind of set some outcome goals looking at student test scores. For Lahana Intermediate School was 50% of our students meeting their median growth percentile ranking and looking for an increase in 10% in our meets and exceeds category.
Could you explain what is median growth percentile?
Yes, yes, and it would be much easier with a broken down definition, but essentially what it is they rank each kiddo how they score and put them into a percentile, 50 being somewhat average or 50% right in the middle for how students score on that test throughout the state, if that's making sense. So if you're at 50%, it's meaning that you're scoring right on the average of percentile with every other student taking that test. And so we wanted to make sure that, or at least for right now, that we're shooting to meet that state midpoint. If that
Can
makes
I
sense.
jump in?
Yes, sir.
So the way they do the percentiles, they compare students with students who scored like them last year. And then they see where they are this year and they simply rank them. So say this room all scored a 550 last year. They take all the 550s and then they rank how they did the next year and say, Ms. Hines is the 50th percentile, she's right in the middle. Everyone on that side has positive growth. Everyone below that 50th percentile is below state average in growth. So it's just simply right in the middle, but they're trying to compare. So like special education students, for example, are compared with other special education students that scored like them last year. And that's how they measure growth and how you're doing against everybody in the state.
So you're measured year to year by growth in a norm setting. So everyone that scored potentially close to you in your net score. And then for LJPS, was really looking at NWEA, and that was again 50% of the students meeting their projected growth score. This next page breaks down where we were from fall to winter for NWEA for both ELA and math. So you can see each grade level where they scored as well as they combined results. My next slide is where we're sitting 25-26 for growth for NWEA. I can't stress enough how exciting it was to see a lot of these numbers. We're seeing a majority of our grade levels seeing double-digit growth. You know, it shows us that what we're doing is making an impact, but we've still got some work that we've got to do, which was the same message that we sent all of our staff whenever we met at our Q2 step back, where we shared this data with them, showed them the growth that we've seen and the struggles that we're still trying to fix.
Is this the new math curriculum?
So NWA is just our norm to test that we use. But yes, these are scores we're seeing with all these grade levels implementing our illustrative math, which was new this year. So drawing your attention back to that big rock ones, to that planning and implementation, we're looking to have more than 95% of observed instructional tasks aligning to grade level standards. That's done with our leadership walkthrough team, and we're really highlighting our illustrative math and our wonders. So our two strongest curriculums we have right now. So we really wanted to make sure that we're using that. And again, 85% of our teachers are finding value, and we tested this. 85% of our teachers finding value in our collaborative planning. So all of our PLC work that our coaches and our APs and our principals are doing every week in their buildings. What we did is we sent out surveys, got teacher feedback on how positive, how supportive, what we could fix, what we could do to help support them.
On the ones that aren't finding value in them, do they give reasons as to why they're not finding value?
Yeah. So we get some feedback from staff. Right now, a lot of the feedback we've got is just that it's a lot at once. And what that has prompted us to do is kind of shift from an administrative point of view and say, how can we limit that piece? Or how can we change some of the things, look at some of the practices we have right now, see if there's any redundancy, see if we're doing things that don't need to be done twice or that aren't quite making sense with this shift in initiatives. And always trying to go back to that piece and see what we can do to be as supportive as possible. Switching over to Big Rock 2, looking at 80% of observed classrooms demonstrating a level 3 or higher, and then 100% of our staff having a level 3 or higher for culture of learning. You'll see our data on how we scored there. A huge goal that we had set for both primary and intermediate was that every one of our teachers would have six full observations in a quarter, so in a sprint cycle or a 90-day plan. And then from those 6 observations, they are receiving at least 3 observation feedback coaching meetings. So essentially what that is, after the instructor, AP, anyone goes in and gives an evaluation or gives an observation, sees it, they set up a meeting with that teacher and they go through a coaching cycle, which we've kind of practiced with both Sam with CDE as well as Josh at TNTP, which kind of gives a layout and a practice of how we want all of the coaching happening within the district, so that we're kind of all coaching the same way, giving the same feedback, using the same tools. So it's more aligned so that we don't have so much differentiation between our coaching, between our buildings. And so with that, like I said, trying to get those 6 observations and then really honing in on making sure that everyone's receiving those 3 feedback cycles in a quarter.
Can I just go back really quick? I'm sorry.
That's fine.
To Big Rock 1, at the primary school, it has that 81 of the teachers are using, HQI, is that the new?
Yes.
So then what is the other 19% using if they're not using it?
So essentially what we really wanted to do, when we set a goal, was typically when you think primary, you think like holidays when they come up, what kind of fun activities, what kind of piece of, and so we realized that within primary, you got to have a little bit more wiggle room for that engagement piece with kids. But what we wanted to make sure we told staff was, even if we come in and we understand it's the day before you're going to break, we're still going to be as accurate as we can with our data, being understandable that there's a gray area within that piece. But anytime that we came in as a whole admin team, we made it clear within all of us, if we go in and there's something that it's clear that a teacher went off script or went off what we wanted to do within not using IM or not using this piece, there's a discussion and a follow-up behind that piece of why that's happening. What's actually a great benefit is when our primary staff saw that, they instantly asked us for feedback. Almost every one of the leaders in that building got emails saying, please make sure when we have our coaches meetings, we are being very transparent on whether you see me using the right materials or not, because if not, we need to have that shift. I thought it was a great shift in mindset from our staff, where at first we were worried that maybe the buy-in wouldn't be there, but we're seeing the opposite. We're just trying to be as transparent and as honest and exact as we can with the data, so that we know what we're seeing on an everyday, whether it be right before lunch, right before a holiday, anytime. Trying to make sure we're as intentional as possible.
And then on the result two, is there a reason why, we're not hitting those goals? Like
Yeah,
is
so
it staffing, time, sickness?
lots of sickness, lots of bouts. What this also again gave us was a great pivot point. We looked at this data. It wasn't the data we wanted to, but really this Big Rock data was a great way for us as administrators to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that our schedules are fitting and we're meeting the supports and the needs that we need to for our staff. So we looked at that piece. We're able to say, you know what, some of these missing or some of these things that have come up for natural reasons makes sense, but how can we plan so that the second half of the year doesn't snowball in a negative way, that we bounce back and we pivot from this piece. And so we have that, and you can kind of see as I break down how many of them have 5 or more, how many of them have 4 or more. One thing I really like is this 6 observations. And Dr. K, if you can comment on this, in my career as an educator, I've not once had a year where I've gotten to have 6 observations. I love that we have this high goal. I would call this a golden standard, that if we're able as administrators to get in and see 6 observations on a teacher per quarter. So, you're looking at almost 25 observations a year, night and day different from where we were.
With the average, I think CDE for probationary teachers recommends or requires 6 total for the year.
Oh.
So, 4 spot and 2 formals. So now we're way beyond what is expected by the state, just so we can provide that feedback with the new strategies we're using, the new curriculums, all the coaching we're receiving, or they're receiving from TNTP. So it's a lofty goal. And so we're above where we need to be at the state level by a lot, but this is a great goal, just to be able to provide all that feedback where we're at.
Okay.
And just
Just a question on, so how long do you observe a teacher when there is an observation?
I think it kind of depends on what you're going in there, but typically we see 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes 20. For example, and I'll kind of go into what our Q3 focus is on academic monitoring. What we're starting to see is that we're having to be more intentional, because that part of the lesson isn't always at the beginning. It isn't always at the end. And so you have to stay longer to make sure you're hitting that point, or you get better data to know when you're going to see that teacher, when it's going to happen within that lesson. And so that kind of shifts a little bit. And it really depends on what your reasoning behind it. For example, we also do additional observations for COMTSS, which is a whole nother thing we're going to talk about at our next board meeting. But for example, that walkthrough is very different from this one. Use complete different forms. We're looking for different things. Doesn't take the same amount of time. So we just kind of shift going by that.
And usually a formal setup, they know we're coming in. We do less of those. And those are usually like an entire class period. Whereas the spots, you might be coming in to check to see how we're doing the beginning of lessons, the middle, how they're concluding the lessons. And like you said, they could be 10 to 15 minutes. You're in there. And that's where we're trying to really beef up those spots where it's not an I got you, but the teachers are just, you're going to see more of a real picture of what's going on.
Thank you, Dr. K.
I like the sound of gold standard, so
You too.
We're shooting high. You know, I've said it to multiple people. I'll echo it again. When TNTP shows up, I have not been disappointed with a single thing TNTP has put out. I've seen it on like the FSCP side, Family School Community Partnership side, the attendance side, everything they're doing puts out. When Josh shows up, when we have days planned for TNTP, so Josh to be here, he's either in person that week or he's on a Zoom meeting that week. We meet just about every time. I think the first stretch we're gonna go is we have 3 weeks until we see him again. And that was because he changed his schedule to work Thursday and Friday last week, which was our PD day. But that'll be the longest duration we've had without that influence. But when he shows up, our admin know, like, there's no lunch break. We hit the ground running. Everything is detailed to the minute. We try not to waste any of that time. It's exhausting. The amount of work, it's starting to build our stamina, and really set to that gold standard, because we're trying to set a high bar and really, rather than cower away from it, support everyone getting there. You know, I was gonna highlight, I will briefly on that last part, having a level 3 or higher. Part of that data has shifted because what we thought was a level 3 at the beginning of the year, now we're looking at it going, can't we do better than that piece? And so know that as we're constantly rethinking about what is our golden standard, because now what we thought was gold looks a little bit more like silver, and we want to make sure that, you know, if you're not getting better, you get worse. This last section I just wanted to highlight for you guys is really our Q3 focus, which is academic ownership, really putting it on the learning on our kiddos, not bailing them out, giving them more supports, building some of that grit to learning that we're seeing kind of a deficit in. And so this really breaks it down. Again, just to really highlight, as we break these quarter focus downs, we are talking about what are the specific adult things that teachers are doing that have an impact in their classroom. What does it look like? What does it sound like? And then what we're doing is we're crafting our professional development days on Fridays into specific trainings that go hand in hand with what our initiatives are, so that everything is becoming aligned. Rather than picking something out of the clouds for what we want to do for PD, we're tying it directly to our initiatives that we set that are supported by our big rocks that we had set at the beginning of the year. And so it just has allowed us to be streamlined, allowed us to collect better data, and be more intentional with what we're showing our staff, what our expectations are, so that they can meet the gold standard that we're trying to set. And that should be it. Was there any other questions or anything that I could address today?
So you have confidence that you're gonna be able to meet the benchmarks in the coming quarters?
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence. Like I said, one really assuring thing is, anytime we didn't hit the data, didn't hit the scores, I didn't hear any excuses. I heard a lot of, okay, this isn't how I wanted it to be. What are we gonna have to do? A lot of self-reflection, a lot of looking at one another going, hey, we gotta do a little bit better. How are we gonna do that piece? Where do we have wiggle room? Where did we not quite push ourselves? And admin, I think, have been able to be very honest with our staff on that, and our staff has really responded with that piece. You know, we know we're asking every person right now, every person in the district to do more now than they were this time last year. We just are. You know, what we're trying to do is not make the work easier. We're trying to make our people better, and it's coming with a lot of effort, but I feel optimistic about it. Like I said, anytime where we stepped in a puddle or we take a step back, we had a real conversation about it. We put action items on how we're going to fix it. And every single person I've gotten to work with has really dove into that work.
Awesome. Thank you.
Is this something that you plan to implement after TNTP is gone?
Yes. Thank you for highlighting that. Yes, essentially what I've already started doing is trying to, it's almost in the skeletal phase, if that makes sense. Really see what has TNTP's method been, and not that UVA wasn't structured, but just TNTP kind of started at the same time I did. It's been easier to wrap my head around what their processes have been, but essentially building out the calendar for how they did things, why they did them. Why did we look at our Q1? When did we decide to do that? Looking at our calendar days. So I know, okay, we have this many Fridays that we're going to be able to build in professional development, and really stealing all those things that they're doing. Luckily enough, we have TNTP a little bit longer. But that is the goal, so that moving forward, whenever TNTP steps down, whenever we get off the clock, we have an academic structure. Not just an everyday putting out fire structure, but an academic initiative that we know is gonna be as thought out and planned as possible. And again, trying to ride that momentum because everyone's kind of getting back into shape, better shape. And so that's the goal.
Now, how long do we have TNTP?
I think for sure that we have them for next year, and then, depending on how we score, whether we're on the clock, whether we're not, will dictate whether we have their support or not.
Are there any other questions, for Jared? Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
All right, number 6, superintendent's report and recommendation.
Okay, so I have, just 2 quick updates. Last week, I believe, we took a team to Oklahoma City for the UVA winter conference. So we took a team of administrators, some teachers, central administrators, and it was a really good 3-day workshop. A lot of homework that we had to do, professors from the University of Virginia Business School, and it was really just a good opportunity to sit down and look at where we are. So if you want to think of University of Virginia, UVA is more of the big plan in the sky of what we want to do, what our focuses want to be, where TNTP is down on the everyday line, helping teachers improve their craft on a daily basis. So it was a really good opportunity for us to work with people from all over the country. There's a lot of other schools that were there, and we just had a really good opportunity to grow as leaders. Just wanted to point out that anything we do with TNTP and UVA is funded by grants from CDE. So all of it is covered through the CDE grants. They have identified partners, as you know, and UVA and TNTP are two of the best to help us not only get out of where we are, but to never go back, to really help us develop long-term structures that we won't go back into what got us in here in the first place. So it was a really good opportunity, learned a lot, and we're almost done with that UVA partnership. I think we've got maybe one more, but they've been a great partner. The second update is with TNTP, we are going to use them for our strategic plan. So I met with Sarah last week from TNTP. We're finalizing all of the information. And we don't want to bring in another partner. We wanted to keep it consistent so they know who we are. So they're going to start the process, and I will send out to everybody as soon as we finalize in the next day or a couple days what that's going to look like. But the plan is they're going to be out here in March collecting data from our school. So I will, I'm going to go over the agenda with the principals on Wednesday. But they will be in our schools collecting data, where we're at, what they see. And then we'll have, from that point on in April, we'll have 2 work sessions with support members, community members, teachers, admin, that first section, which should be in April, and I'll get all those dates to you. And then we'll do a final one with a smaller group, but we're really grabbing input from all of our stakeholders to design what is our strategic plan moving forward. What is our academic plan, our financial plan, our community engagement plan, who are we? And that'll be done by the end of May. So we'll be ready to go in the next school year. So we'll be moving pretty quickly, but that work is going to begin by them coming out here in the first week of March. Any questions about those 2 things? Okay.
All right. Were you gonna mention meet and confirm?
Yes, so we have, we will go with a few teachers for meet and confer, I believe. This is February 17th?
Yes.
Yes. So we'll meet with the board and a few teachers about meet and confer, where they'll ask for talk about is where we are.
Right. Thank you, Dr. K. Number 7, unfinished business.
So I recommend approving revised policies GCBA, GBGD, GCCAA, GCCBA, and BE on second and final reading. Policy GCBA is instructional staff contracts, compensation, salary, and schedule. Revised to update number of contract days and student days. Policy GBCD, workman's compensation, revised to update providers list. Policy GCCAA, certified licensed staff, revised for clarification purposes. Policy GCCBA, administrative staff leave, revised for clarification purposes. And policy BE, board meetings revised to include May in the months having meetings on the second Monday due to Memorial Day.
I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve revised policies GCBA, GBGD, GCCAA, GCCBA, and BE on second and final reading as presented.
Second.
I have a motion in 2 seconds. To approve revised policies GCBA, GBGD, GCCAA, GCCBA, and BE on second and final reading. Questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call.
Mrs. Ayala. Aye. Mrs. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Salzburger.
Aye.
All right, moving on, new business.
Okay, so this will be the part where we recommend the approval of 25-26 final budget and appropriation resolutions presented. So we'll have Kim and Glenn.
And actually, Sarah is on the line.
Yeah.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me? Awesome. All right, so we're going to get ready to go into the second reading, is it, of the amended budget tonight? And the main document that I want to pull up, and Kim, does everybody have the budget summary?
Can you pull up the mid-year proposed budget for BOD approval?
Yep. Well, she should be able to see it as well.
Super.
Yeah.
All right, so this is just a summary of each one of the funds we'll walk through. And on each one of these pages, it's laid out in the same way that you guys get to see your financials each month. So you've got your revenues at the top, and then all your expenditures are down at the bottom for each one of the funds. And before I start rolling around, I just want to explain a little bit, number one, about the process of why we're doing an amended budget. And then we'll start talking about the different data points that you see up on this page. So the reason, again, in June, we adopt our budget for this upcoming fiscal year so that it's in place by July 1. And then here in January, the whole point to doing an amended budget is we are rectifying or fixing the funding sources that we're getting, mainly from CDE. Now that they've verified our student count is the big thing that we're looking at, and our property taxes. And those property taxes were something that we verified last December, so a couple months, or last month, I should say. And then we align expenses, and a lot of that is now that we know contract amounts for salaries and also benefits. So that's the reason for the amended budget. So the document that you guys have up on the screen is something that Kim helped us put together, because it's very important that we can also see what were we looking at, or how have we been trending in these past years as well. So you'll see over on the far left, it's actuals from way back in 21 and 22. And then what you'll see this evening as far as your far right is the amended budget that we're asking to put together tonight. So up at the upper area, you see our revenues. And I'm just going to kind of jump down through some of these areas, but anything in the top 4 lines are what's considered local revenues. And a big source to that would be in the top area where we see our property taxes coming in. And another area that you're going to watch is that line that shows on state sources. And that's where our CDE funding comes in, as well as some of our grants. So our adopted budget for this year, we originally said we were coming in at 16,901,000, and we're amending the budget so that it shows we're actually projecting to get 16,998,000. And a lot of that has to do with the amended mill levy certification that we just did. So the next area down are all of the expenditures. And one thing that I would really like to, yeah.
Greg had a quick question.
Yeah.
Explain to me what you meant by the amended mill levy.
So each year we have to certify the mill, and we did that back in December. Yep. And so basically what that's doing is once we get the assessed value coming in from the county, we then recertify the mills from what they were from the year before. Did that make sense?
Right, so the mill, because we're getting the funding because of the change in the assessed valuation, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, they're updating. Yeah, okay, I got it.
Okay, so as we look through the bottom area, the first one I want to point out is that salaries line. So that's the 0100 line. And I want you to see, and let's look way back to year 21-22. And you see we were running at 7.8 million. And you watch how that number grows year over year over year to where we're seeing our amended budget tonight sitting at 10,259,000. What Kim and I do is we look at the full amount that is sitting in, excuse me, hold on one second, I have my phone ringing. Sorry about that. So what we do is we look at the payrolls, and then what Kim and I do is we project out what we know is going to be the next 6 months, so we can get that number accurate. And then the other line that aligns right up to it are those employee benefits. So the 0200 line right down below it. And again, you see that that number increases every year, even though what we've seen is that the student count has actually been decreasing. So when we're talking about some of these budgetary issues that we're having and cash flow issues that we're having, a big portion of that is coming from those top two expense areas in salaries and benefits. The other thing that you guys do get a chance to see is at the very bottom, and I'm going to go back to Greg, you had a question when we were doing the Kim was doing the presentation of the financials, and you talked about fund balance, and you guys were talking about cash in banks. So at the very bottom, you see general fund, and you see those numbers at the bottom that has the double underline down below. What that is the profit or loss that the district has had year over year. And on this report, if we had those numbers in parentheses, that would be a good thing. That would show that the district has been running at profits each year, year over year. But unfortunately, what we see at that bottom line is that we have all those what appear to be positive numbers, but unfortunately, those mean that those are consistent losses that the district has seen year over year. So unfortunate thing about this evening is the amended budget. We are projecting to show a loss this year again of basically 1,023,990. And that's with us working with the administration, really trying to go through every single area that we can. Where can the district cut some spending now for the next 6 months? And where can we shore up to make sure that we actually do hit and we make that loss as small as possible? And what you see tonight is the best that we've been able to put together. I'll say that. Are there any questions? If there's no other questions, I'm going to scoot us down to our next fund. So that would be the next fund down, or I think we actually have to go maybe a couple pages down. The next fund is going to be 18. Yep, which we don't have, and 19 is another one. So the next one up is going to be food service. It'll be the next page down yet. There we go. So I want to stop here because this is along the same lines of what we were just talking about with Fund 10. I want you to look at the very bottom row of this Fund 21. So you do see that there are some columns that show numbers in that parentheses that I was talking about. That shows that those years food service was running with a positive. So revenues came in higher than our expenditures going out for those years. And the amended budget that we're showing you guys tonight is balanced, which means that all of our revenues coming in, we're going to be using all those expenses to go back out.
How can you make money off of food services?
We did at District 11. When you're efficient with the number of meals you serve and staffing and food costs, if you have enough meal participation, especially if they qualify for free and reduced lunch, you can do it.
Isn't Colorado, everyone gets free lunch?
The Healthy School Meals for All does basically do that. There is additional revenue from like a la carte sales and things like that, but their main meal is funded through the Healthy School Meals for All.
Okay.
But it's all about economies of scale, and how you staff and how many meals you serve.
But there's no salaries or employee benefits in this.
That's because you outsource.
Okay, gotcha.
How long have we been with Trevor? Do you know?
Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure how long we've been with them.
It is crazy that we go from 70 and then we lost 125 and then 40 and then $500,000. That's. See how that happened. Okay.
It may be something you want to look at. I could talk to you offline about that. I'd rather not do it in a public meeting, but I could talk to you about the advantages and disadvantages of outsourcing.
So if there's no other further questions on food service, let's jump down to pupil activity, I believe is the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's pupil activity. So this is Fund 23. And what you see here is that there is a transfer line. So right above the revenue total in that 5,000 or that 5,000 category that says other sources, this evening we are asking, so over in the amended budget column, you'll see that $150,000 that hangs out over there. What we are asking with a transfer is that the general fund, Fund 10, supports some of the program opportunities that are happening over in Fund 23. And so with that, we are asking that we have a transfer be approved that goes from Fund 10 over to Fund 23 to help support our programs that are running over there. And this is also another balanced fund, you'll see.
But it's only balanced because we're transferring funds into it to make it balanced.
Yeah, that is correct.
Right.
Kim, can you speak a little bit more about like the kind of expenses you've seen hitting Fund 23?
Fund 23 is all of your athletics and your activities. So any student sponsored fundraising accounts, athletics, wrestling, any of those accounts.
And we heard about those monies being kind of commingled in the general fund, that they were mixed up and we didn't know where everything was.
Correct.
So we've straightened that out now.
Yeah, as of September, as of October 1st, everything has been brought into the general fund, and every account has its own source.
So does this transfer support that? Being it uncommingled? Or is that?
The 150,000 is, that's basically to help subsidize the programs. So like, if how much are sports fees, for instance?
So I believe they're like $40. So sports fees, gate fees, all of that now is going back into the general fund to help us pay for these programs. Before it was a completely separate software that wasn't even part of the central organization.
Right.
Now that's been corrected, but yes, any of those revenues is going back in so we can help fund these activities.
So we're keeping track of that. These transfers are necessary to support that.
Correct.
Yes.
Because we're not taking in enough to cover. Okay.
Okay.
If there's no more questions on Fund 23, let's scoot down to, I believe 31 will be next. So Fund 31 is the debt service fund. So what this is it's basically representing the bond principal and interest that we pay each year. And so to cover that, that's part of the mill levy certification that we did in December. So it shows that in our amended budget, we're going to bring in $444,000, and that's just enough to cover the debt that we have that goes out in principal and interest each year at $443 is what the liability is for this next year. So that one's a pretty simple in and out kind of fund. The next one down, I believe, is going to be Fund 41 or 43.
41.
41 is now closed down. And Kim, I see we do have some funds that are closed, but we're showing them because they had prior year actuals, right?
That is correct. Once the audit is complete, those should all go away.
Was this a fund for the best grant money for the primary?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. And that's all. Yeah, I got it. Okay.
Yep.
Yep. So then the next one down, here comes Fund 43. So Fund 43 helps pretty much what's considered the capital projects fund, but what it does is it covers any sort of repairs we have around the district that would be capital improvements. And so you'll see another one of these transfer requests that we have back up in that upper area under that 5,000 line. So again, we're asking that Fund 10, the general fund, gives Fund 43 a transfer of $100,000 to help support some of those property services that are going to be happening over these next 6 months.
Dr. King, do we know what that is, what they are, what we're gonna use this money for?
I'd have to look. I'm not sure.
It's usually things like boilers and school buses and.
So this is emergency stuff, or is this planned stuff?
Right now, we're just in emergency.
Okay.
I mean, what we've had, we obviously used for, like, we planned for the roof in October. But at this point, with where we're at, we're just hoping that nothing breaks.
So this is just kind of, just in case.
Yes.
So the transfer essentially is, we're transferring the money into that fund as like a placeholder to save that money for that specific fund.
Correct.
And that's what that specific fund would be used for, not necessarily, we have $100,000 that we need to make up for in that, but it's just a placeholder to hold that money.
Correct. You had several projects that you had mentioned. We talked about pool, we've talked about several projects. I can't remember.
Repairing the sidewalk.
Yeah, the sidewalk, there was a sidewalk.
So when we have those things, we're gonna need to be able to, that's the danger of what we've done, taking down our savings and taking down all this money, that if we have these emergencies, we're going to be even more, running the deficit even more.
I believe there was a heater for like $30,000 for the pool that we just had.
Yes, that's correct.
So that's why we increased it from 60 to 100, because that one part alone was over 30,000.
And Ms. Hines, the state wants you to segregate capital purchases into a separate fund, like this capital reserve fund, but there's no revenue stream
Right.
for that. And so It's normal and common that every district has to transfer from the general fund because the expenditures are there.
Okay,
So that's the normal operation.
okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Now you can kind of see that transfer year over year that we see from way back from 21, 22, where it used to be at 900,000 that year. We have had to lower it down quite a bit. And again, it's just due to the fact that we have a budgetary shortfall. And for right now, that's just our reserve for emergency purposes only at this point. Someday we'd like to get back to those larger transfers.
In 21, 22, in those larger years, was that COVID money that we were moving in there to spend? No, it was
I don't
just
think so.
money.
That wouldn't make sense to me.
Okay.
It was large computer purchases. You know, it wasn't just because anything, it's not just the buildings when you're talking about capital, it's also any expense over 10,000. So if we're making any big purchases, that would be, right now, we have shut all of that down. Just because we don't have the money to be able to do any of those things.
Just seems really high.
It could have been school buses.
It could have been.
You know, you can't get a school bus for under 150 nowadays.
We got 2 last year. Yeah, 2 school buses. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I was just curious. It just seemed like really, really large. If we're pulling from savings every year, it just seems like a lot to spend. But
I believe the final 2 funds that are listed in your report.
I just have one question back on Fund 43. In previous years, what is that line property? What does that consist of? Because I see in this budget, it's 0. What is that line?
It's rolling all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I can answer that. The CD account codes, the 0700 property account is property, it's land, building, and equipment. So it's pretty much everything. We can also use purchase property services sometimes. Probably Kim and Sarah, in capital reserve, they should be using the 700 account, not the 400. So they probably need to move that down to the 700. That's the more accurate account code because you are capitalizing all those items. So I think it's just a classification change. Okay.
I think we had it under like repair maintenance, you know, the repairs now is
So
one of the intention.
yeah, maybe these are more intended to be smaller projects.
We had that $30,000 heater, so we're like, we possibly could have repairs coming up, so I can gladly move it to 700. So.
At 30, it would be capitalized, so then it should be a 7.
Okay.
And I believe the final 2 funds that are listed in your report are also, I'm not going to say dead funds, but they're sleeping funds. How about that?
Yeah.
Everybody's sleeping. Yep. All zeros. I have to say, this report that you're seeing tonight is a summary. We do have all the data that backs up into this. So if there's any further questions or anything that you guys would like to have answered along the way, if you could just ask Dr. K, we can get you any sort of documentation you need behind any of this. Again, we just, for ease of what you guys are absorbing tonight, giving it to you in a summary version.
They do have the details as well, Sarah.
Oh, good. Okay.
So Dr. K, if Sarah's done, might be appropriate for me now? Yes, sure. If you could go back to the general fund tab, you saw on that general fund page that you've had a history for the last 3 or 4 years of deficit spending. And now that Kim and Sarah have gone through and basically scrubbed all your accounts and really tightened up your salaries and benefits, which is about 80% of your general fund, your deficit spending to the tune of $1 million. You're going to end this fiscal year with very little fund balance. So I have talked to Dr. K about this, and I guess at D11, they used to call me Dr. Gloom. I'm not a PhD, but that's what they called me. Because, you know, the nature of the job is doom and gloom. You guys are in a very serious financial position, and next year you're gonna have to make some really hard choices. I did ask Dr. K, you know, could you make those cuts this year in the middle of the school year? And he said, no, we really do not want to do that because we're talking about people. I have lots of tools in the toolbox of ways to nibble at that number, like utility savings and things like that. But you're really not going to be able to move $1 million without affecting staffing. It's 80% of your budget. Without affecting staffing, you're not going to get there. So you're going to have significant staffing reductions next year. You're also probably going to have to look at little or no pay raises next year, just to get that $1 million down to zero. And you need to get that number down to zero because you don't have any fund balance left. You burn through all your savings. So, you know, I'd be glad to talk to Dr. K about ways to nibble around the other line items to mitigate the impact of staff. I never want to cut staff. I know it's staff that's fighting the war on student achievement every day in the foxholes. But in your situation, it's the only realistic way you're going to get $1 million squeezed out of that budget. The outlook for next year's school finance increase from the governor is not good. State's got its own problem. Their deficit spending as well. They're looking at a deficit of $1 billion. Right now, we're projecting, and it's the legislative session just started, a 2% increase in per pupil revenue. And that's assuming that your enrollment is stable. You're also going from 4-year averaging to 3-year averaging next year. So if you have fewer pupils, you may end up with little or no additional funds next year, which means you've got to cut $1 million when utilities are going up and everything else is going up, healthcare is going up, all the other things that are hard to control are going up. So I'm really thankful to see Patrick and his team stepping up their game. I'm really happy to see your partnership with Abacus. I think you're on the right path. I think you've turned the corner, but unfortunately now is going to be a little bit of a tough love time where you don't have any choices left. You've already depleted those savings. You're going to have to make the hard reductions for next year. So my advice for that, look for the little rocks first to try to avoid the cuts to the classroom as much as you can for when you start building next year's budget, which won't be far from now, just be 3 or 4 months. But you're going to have to take a hard look at staffing to see what you can reduce to get that number down. And you're also going to probably have to have minimal or no pay raises. It's just that's the situation you're in. In reality, and I know no employee likes to hear this, you probably overextended yourselves on pay raises in previous years when your enrollment was declining. You should have been cutting positions and lowering pay during those years, but that didn't happen. And so now you've got the tough job of doing that this year. I really appreciate working with Dr. K. I talked to him on my own time. I worked on your budget template over the weekend. I've done a lot to help you, and I will continue to do that. But unfortunately, this is going to be really a tough budget to build for 26, 27. And so here are my recommendations for you to do that. One, look for as many of those easy wins as you can, like utilities, turning off lights, looking at all those things. There's a number of companies out there that'll do energy audits to see how well you can squeeze those energy dollars. That's often a pretty big line item. Look at how little you can get by with capital improvements, how little you can get by with adding new curriculum. Try to keep those instructional supplies as low as possible. So look for those easy wins before affecting staff. That's the first thing you need to do. Let's hope for a little bit of help from the state that maybe we'll get a little bit of additional money to offset that $1 million. And then the real challenge will be what staffing do you go after in order to do that. And so in terms of that, I think it's really important that you manage expectations among your staff. It's really hard when you have a teachers union or a collective bargaining agreement, or even just an employee group that think, oh, inflation is 4%, I deserve a 4% raise. I think now's the time where you need your team out in the buildings, going to staff meetings, talking about the budget situation honestly, and sharing what's happened over the last 4 years and letting them know next year's gonna be tough. Start lowering those expectations now, so it's not a big surprise in July when it doesn't come in. I had to do that. Believe it or not, D11 was big. When I started, we were 33,000 kids, but when I left 32 years later, we lost a third of our enrollment. We were down to 22,000 kids. When you lose that many kids, you're cutting the budget every year, and I had to do hard things. I had to close schools. I had to redistrict boundaries. I had to cut the benefit plan. I had to do all kinds of horrible things just to survive during that declining enrollment time. They're still declining. And unfortunately, that's going to be the boat that you're going to be in next year. You're going to have to do that. So manage those expectations, be open and transparent, and let staff have input into that. They know where the money is spent in the building. They know. And say, I used to do an exercise with staff where I had a little spreadsheet and I would say, okay, here's our budget. A 1% raise costs this, steps cost this, and here's our budget situation. You've got to get this number to zero. How would you balance the budget if you were superintendent? And boy, when they put that hat on, their eyes are open and they go, wow, I had no idea that a 1% raise costs $500,000 or whatever it is in your district. And it helps buy them into the process that you don't have a choice, because the alternative is really, really ugly. Having the state take over your district will be devastating, because they will be able to unilaterally cut positions without any input from you. So you don't want to go there. You want to try to avoid that as best as you can. And I'll continue to help Dr. K and you guys as much as I can, but unfortunately, ultimately, without, because they're going to give you the good numbers, you're just going to have to go through a menu and say, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to increase class size, which means lowering staff? You know, we're going to cut aides. You have a lot of teacher aides, way more than any district I ever see, way more. You're going to have to go through and make those decisions. Is that helpful at all? I know that's not a fun message to hear.
But really, though, we keep referring to 4 or 5 years, but this trend of declining enrollment and increasing positions is really 9 years, right?
9 years. Yeah, I mean, the numbers that I have, the last 10, I used 8 years. In the last 8 years, we have decreased over 200 students, and we've increased staffing during that time by 10 certified and 35 classified positions. So as we have,
That's just crazy.
district has
4 years.
lost money, we've increased spending. And to Glenn's point, I have been out to every building and have met with each staff to let them know that, you know, be very transparent of where we're at and where we're headed. So we began that work of, you know, here's where we are and here's what we're going to have to do moving forward.
I really appreciate all the work you guys have done on the budget and putting all this together and taking the time to go through page by page, line by line to really lay it out for us. At least for me, it was very helpful, and we have not gotten this before. So I think it really helps to understand what our financials look like, make good decisions. Any other questions or comments? Is this an action item too?
Yes.
Okay. I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 financial budget and appropriation resolution. Is that what that is?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the 2025-2026 final budget and appropriation resolutions. Questions, comments? Roll call.
Mrs. Ayala. Aye. Mrs. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Colovitz.
Aye.
Mr. Salzburner.
Aye.
All right, letter B, 2026, 2026, and 2028 calendars. Dr. King.
So I recommend approval of the 26, 27, 27, 28 district calendars presented. Building accountability committees and staff had input. Spring break will continue to follow Otero College's calendar as well. Any questions about the calendars we put in?
Motion first.
Okay, sorry.
Make a motion to approve the 2026, 2027, and 2027, 2028 calendar.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the 2026, 2027, and the 2027, 2028 calendars. Questions, comments?
Yes, questions. What kind of data was collected, from parents and students, if there was any? I know you did mention the PI meetings, but like, I know that Sarah and I, before we were on PI, I believe at the time when they did the other 2 years. And just was wondering the data that you collected in the PI meetings and, is it more staff or was it parents as well?
So we collected the pie that we had. I asked each school to go out in their communities and with their staffs to bring us input on suggestions for the calendars. So they did that and they sent it out in their agendas that they told them they were going to be talking about calendars. They took all that information of all the suggestions, brought it back to us. So we took all the schools that gave us input. And then we created 2 calendars, sent it back out to the schools. Based on the big things that we saw were fall break. That was the big one. The teachers and parents wanted that fall break. So the hard part is because we have Fridays off, we only get 3 days to play with for the school year. So, we're not able to take all the federal holidays. We have to be very, thoughtful about which days we have, but we took that input back, sent it back out, and the overwhelming, from when the principals came back to us was I can't remember what the calendar we presented to you, which includes a fall break in October for students and staff, and it's gonna be a Thursday, Monday, in October. So kind of that checkpoint in the mid-year with all the hard work our teachers and our students are doing at that point.
Also, another reflection was, on the calendar, prior, years, a lot of the parents had input on, it was, like the transition from kindergarten. If that's why they split up the days, but we did, find out that the high school didn't follow that, so those were the babysitters and they weren't there, so.
Yeah, so the high school has to have a certain amount of hours, and we have built the schedule. There is a very little bit of wiggle room with snow days. We have to have, I believe it's 1,096. There's a specific number that we have to have for the high school students. That's why they can't take any additional days. And what was happening was we had a lot of our high school kids on those first 2 days when the elementary were not going to school because they were babysitting. That's why we want to start the entire district on the same day.
And then the other one was 4-H and FFA. At that time is around fair time. I'm a parent of a student like that, but also I've had a lot of people contact me about this. Will those kids be able to be,
Absolutely. We will excuse them. We'll take group apps that they're gonna.
and will
be
teachers
working.
help them be able to get their work before or after?
We'll
That's a stressful week.
Absolutely, we'll do that.
Okay, that was the most of their concerns and stuff, and mine too. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I want to say thank you to all the people that do the calendar because I know it's a rough one. It's a battle. And also the whole break in October that's good to hear because one of the meetings I was doing with High the 2 years prior, that was a concern of a teacher for junior high that it was so stressful that there's no break in there and that the kids just get so riled up right before that fall break. And I really like that. I'm glad that we're listening to staff and family. And
that was the biggest suggestion from all stakeholders.
Yes.
Parents and staff.
I love that. That's the one. All right, thank you.
Was there any feedback? I mean, and I think I know the answer to this. Do we start so early because we're on a 4-day week?
That is the big thing, having the 4 days. We have to meet those hours that you see in your calendar. And in order to do that, we have to have an earlier start.
Was there any feedback on how early? I mean, August 10th seems early to me, but no, everybody's pretty much used to it.
Yep, I believe so.
I think they'd rather be done before Memorial Day. So that.
Yeah, the later you start, the more you.
Right. The longer you go,
Yeah.
trade off.
Well, I appreciate all the work that's gone into the calendar. I know that that's not an easy task. I was also excited to see that, President's Day was one of the day off. In years past, it's been the week after, which I know has been hard on families because everyone else is off President's Day, and then the following week, they had to find childcare. So, I was excited to see that adjustment to these next two calendars. Any other questions or comments? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Ayala.
Aye.
Mrs. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Colovitz.
Aye.
Mr. Salzbringer.
Aye.
Letter C. Designate official posting sites for board meeting notices.
So I recommend approval of the designated posting sites for board meeting notice as presented. We'll use the diligent community on the district website, central office bulletin board, and as well as each school building and notification to the local newspaper.
I entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve policy EDA. Notification of board meetings.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the designate official posting sites for board meeting notices. Questions, comments? All right, roll call.
Mrs. Ayala.
Aye.
Mrs. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Colovitz.
Aye.
Mr. Salzbringer.
Aye.
All right, we're coming.
Was it the Chamber of Commerce banquet before we came down here, and the high school show choir performed? They did a great job. So it was nice to have them there. Thank you TTA for cool mugs. And a big shout out to the maintenance staff for cleaning the sidewalks this weekend with the snow.
I also wanted to say thank you for the gift. That's awesome. And I was also wanted to thank Jared for his time coming to present tonight and giving us those updates. It's really encouraging to hear that we are reaching for a gold standard. And I think with the more often we can do that, that will help us to be the district we want to be.
I have a few things, since we haven't met up since after CASB and really talked about it. I'd really like to thank Jill for setting all that up and doing all that for us. And it was a really good, conference because we all were there as a board and including, our super. So that was really good. Also, a lot of the things that we do there, I don't think people understand, we took policy, we took budgeting, pretty much classes and to know what they're all about. And so I just wanted to say that, but we also do little side ones. I went to, I believe two of the other board members went to the one with having a presence of high schoolers on our school board. I really enjoyed that, seeing those kids and how they were engaging and just giving us their opinions and stuff and recommendations, not having a vote, but it was really nice. And then I also attended one for Gifted and Talented. Those kids are amazing. It didn't even seem like they were kids they were talking. But there's a lot of things that go into that. And since I'm on the BOCES board, it was interesting learning all that stuff as well. And then the other things, Santa Fe Trail BOCES did a training with us too. So we're doing a lot of training as board members. And that was a legal one, which was, for the whole area districts. And that one, I thought we all engaged really well and learned a whole bunch of stuff. So, I mean, I'd really like to thank, Natalie and our board president at BOCES for setting that all up. And then, let's see, also, I'm pretty sure Greg's gonna be going to the legislative thing we'll be up there Wednesday and, Thursday at the state capitol, so we'll be doing, some more stuff. We'll be learning about the budget, also committee hearings. I'm really interested in finding out about, Ty Winter's, sales tax holiday bill for school clothes. I mean, that's interesting. So there's a lot of stuff that we've been doing, but, I also want to thank, all the staff and all the stuff that they've been doing lately too. This budget's a little rough hearing today, and, I know everybody's been stressed out, and I really appreciate you guys hanging in there, because it's rough. And thank you for all that you do.
Thank you for GTA for the cups. Those are really, really nice, and I love cups. Also on the late start that was called, I appreciate Dr. K calling that early, giving families plenty of opportunity to make plans and everything like that. I know that's been a concern in years past, so I do appreciate that. And then just all the work everyone's doing in the classrooms, the teachers working hard. Jared presented some good numbers and we're trending in the right direction. And I'm excited to see where we continue to grow and get to.
Oh, wait, one last thing. Sorry. So TNTP, so I did observe, I went to, where they had a presentation at Kathy, Boardway. And so we do UVA, they didn't do TNTP, but when I looked at their stuff and how fast they were growing and compared to us, we're a little bit faster, but it showed so much hope. So much hope. It was emotional. There was a lot of tears shedding there, but I see our path, and then your presentation was awesome. So I know that we're going there. And thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn at 8:22.